I'm your moderator today for the fourth coronavirus virtual campus conversation. We are conducting this entirely on Zoom. Today is April 9th, 2020. Joining me today are President Frank Ricciardoni and Councillor Ashraf Hatem, as well as members of the Coronavirus Response Task Force. And these include Provost Ihab Abdulrahman, Vice President for Digital Transformation, Ayman Abdul Latif, Vice President for Student Life, Dina Borai, Vice President for Management and Operations, Shireen Shakir, Vice President for University Affairs, Rania Borai, and Vice President for Marketing Communication and Public Affairs, Dina Abu Futuh. Thank you for joining us today. This week has seen a lot of developments at AUC in Egypt and around the world. There's been a lot of momentum at AUC this week as senior administration has taken a lot of decisions, and there have been a lot of questions about that from students and faculty and staff. I'd like to kick off our questions that we have gotten from you today by asking President Frank Ricciardoni where the campus is at today. How is AUC doing? What's the health of AUC this week?
Thank you very much, Dr. Faras, and welcome to all of our viewers. Thank you for the questions we've already received, and we look forward to getting many more in this hour. At the very broad level, I would say we're really fortunate to be at AUC. This is a strong and resilient community in a country that has responded quite effectively to the pandemic and mitigated the effects. It's remarkable that we haven't had a case yet among our students, faculty, and staff. I don't think it is good luck and good fortune, and we're all praying it continues, but we've also done all we can to make it that way. And so that if and when we are hit, we're going to be able to continue with the goals that we set at the outset. Number one, take care of the health of our people. Number two, save spring term, I will say summer term too, for our students. We want our students to graduate. Also at the high level, broad level, I'm wearing my 100-year pin here. We've been through wars, we've been through economic stresses and strains, plural revolutions, not just one. This is a strong and resilient country and culture and people. We're a strong, resilient institution within it, and I look forward for the next 100 years. Let me also come down a little more. Here we are on the eve of the Easter season. For Western Christians, happy Easter. This is Holy Thursday today. For the Orthodox Christians, that's next weekend. And for the Muslim community, we're on the eve of Ramadan. That will be coming up in just a few weeks. This is, and the Eid follows that, and we have graduation following that. This is a time when we ought to remember the joyful aspects of who we are, where we are in history and in season and in life. We are determined that our students will graduate, and we will have to find some way of marking it in a special way. Already, this is one of our centennial classes. We had a centennial graduation last June. We had one in the winter. One way or another, this centennial class will have a special feeling always, not only because of the centennial, but because of what we have survived together. And not just the students, of course, but the faculty who helped bring them through, and those of us who in administration who have all been pulling together to help that happen. So I'm very confident. I'm very pleased. I want to thank everybody in the community who has done our collective responsibility and our individual responsibility. Remember, it's not only protecting each of us and our individual interests, students who want to get through with their grades, very understandable. Each of us wants to protect our own house, our own health, but we all want to protect the health of others too. And that means we've had to stay home. That's stressful. We've had to vacate the dorms. That's stressful. Those of us who are privileged to have homes elsewhere in Egypt, very often it's preferable to be in the dorms because it's such a great experience to be on campus. But it is not just what individuals need to do for ourselves, it's for the larger community and public. We have responsibilities to others. That's what we teach at AUC, and we're upholding them by and large. Most individuals understand they're responsible to others and have acted heroically and brilliantly through all the stresses and strains. So we're doing very well. There is no hiding from hard facts, though. The world is under economic stress. It's hitting every country, the United States of America, China, the strongest countries in the world. It is hitting Egypt already. It is hitting every institution, every university in the world, every family. And it is hitting us, and it will continue to hit us, and we have to prepare for that. We are preparing for it, and during this program, we can speak to some of the details of what we're doing to prepare. I would note that last week when we did our town hall, we were widely spaced in a single studio, or actually 2 locations. Now you see we're all in separate locations. That's one development. We've reduced the number of people who need to be on campus. We've rigorously identified those who must be on campus. One reason we need to vacate the dorms on campus is so we don't have to have people serving them who will be exposed to risk. Vice President Dina will speak about all of that. We're prepared to, in order to protect not only the possibility of continuing our online courses, but to protect our people, we've developed ways of liberalizing leave. We've extended the no charge, during the stay-at-home emergency, we've extended the no charge to leave through the end of April as another rather costly but important measure to ease the stress on our workers especially, and not have to worry about charging leave right now. And we're looking at policies to liberalize the way people will charge leave when we must do that beginning on May 1st. We've developed new ways, improvements in our teleworking capabilities and policies. That's all a work in progress. That will enable others to get work done from remote places and minimize the amount of time they have to stay on. And finally, we did a town hall meeting yesterday in Arabic. أنا حاولت أتكلم باللغة العربية للأصدقاء والزملاء اللي ما يتكلموش إنجليزي. So we tried also to communicate with our whole community. I think we're in a good place. We're strong, we're resilient. It's a joyful season. Let's not forget that. And let's focus on getting our students through to graduation and marking this really special class who will remember this experience together for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, President Richard. I have just a quick follow-up question regarding minimizing risk and ensuring the safety of our entire community. The decision was taken to minimize physical presence on campus. How successful has that been? Is campus now empty?
It's painfully empty. This is so serious and such a strong requirement. The rest of Egypt is going through this. We cannot claim that we're a privileged island that doesn't have to do what the rest of Egyptian universities are doing. I even considered vacating the campus myself. I live on this New Cairo campus. But I decided this is the place where I will cause least harm to others and be able to uphold my responsibility. So I continue to live here. I like having students around at all hours of the day and night, on Fridays, on Saturdays, on holidays. I like having the workers here. I like having the Saudi food shop open. Today's the last day that's open. We've got it down to such a minimum. It is really, it feels very unpleasant to be so empty. There's a handful of students left who will not be here much longer, I'm afraid. I think we've got it down to the minimum of workers present here, as well as on our downtown campus. So we've done really well. We're lagging behind a little bit the rest of Egypt in upholding our responsibility to vacate the dorms on campus, but we're getting there. And again, I'll leave to Vice President Dina to speak to how well we're doing on that front.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to move our next question to Provost Dihab to address something that has been on the minds of students for most of the past 3 weeks. There have been petitions flying around, the student union has been pushing for a certain platform. What I'm talking about is the new grading system, grading/assessment system, and using pass or fail. So I wanted to ask Provost Abdurrahman, how did you reach the decision in which you explained in several emails yesterday, and perhaps a background so for our students to feel reassured that the university is doing everything it can to minimize disruption to their.
So thank you, Firas. And before I actually answer the question, I want to echo the president in thanking everyone on campus, students, faculty, and staff, because without them working together hand in hand, we wouldn't be able to go through this hard time. That being said, let me give you a little bit of background on how did we reach that decision. From day one, when we actually decided that we will go for online teaching, we realized that this semester is very unusual. So we, in the academic side of the house, formed a different task force to look at the admission of new cohort, the pass and fail option for our students, and also the assessment. How are we going to do assessment for our classes? Each task force has started to work on its own and give us recommendations. We took that recommendations from the task forces and we started consultation with all stakeholders in the university. As you know, since you're a faculty member as well, you know that when it comes to academic decisions, we need to go and discuss that with the Senate and get the Senate actual recommendation on any academic decision. So after some lengthy discussion with the Senate, we came to the conclusion that we will offer this semester, and we announced that yesterday, we will offer this semester the credit fail option. This is an option for the students to exercise after the normal grades come out. So the faculty will grade the courses as normal, as well. After the grades come out, the student will have a window of opportunity of time to look at his or her grade and decide course by course if he wants to convert that course to a credit option or not. So any student who receives a D, undergraduate student who receives a D or higher grade letter may convert that grade letter into a credit course. In that case, the credit will be calculated, but that course will not affect the student GPA. If graduate students will have the same option, but if they receive a C or higher, they will get the option to convert that course to a credit course. If the student receives an F in that course, the F remains in his records. That's why also in light of that decision and early on, we extended the deadline for late drop to be May 7th. So our advice for students who may actually feel that they will not pass the course is to exercise that option and drop the course before or by May 7th. Details are on our website, on the registrar website. Please look at the frequently asked questions on the registrar website. And if you have other questions, please send them to the emails that we shared with you in my email to the community yesterday. We will be able to answer any specific question to any student.
Thank you, Provost Ihab. I'd like to address another question that's been on the minds of students over the past few weeks since we went to online instruction. A lot of students have been complaining that they may not have the paraphernalia to deal with the intensity of online instruction. And some of them have been complaining in recent days that they are having internet issues. So I want to direct this question to Vice President Ayman Abdul Latif. We're hearing more and more that the internet and connectivity issues are becoming a problem for students who are trying to access Zoom or Blackboard and what have you when they're dealing with their professors and the professors are giving instruction online. What can they do to minimize the heaviness that's put on the bandwidth? What can they do to minimize these internet issues? And is there anything that AUC can do to help alleviate these problems?
Thanks, Dr. Firas. Yes, indeed, the internet has been a challenge, and it's unfortunately not just a challenge for us in at AUC, it's for all stakeholders and all users across Egypt, but really across the world. We've been monitoring chatter, and it's been a challenge all across. Now, there are a few things that users can do themselves, and there are a few things that we have done and continue to do. So early on, we anticipated, knowing the infrastructure that we have here, we have anticipated the need for additional bandwidth for all systems. And so what we've done is we've prioritized traffic for all systems that have to do with online delivery of instruction and courses, such as Blackboard and Panopto. We've given priority for that traffic over any other traffic coming through our gateway into AUC. So there's no contention for that capacity. There's also, we know that not all of us are fortunate enough to either have reliable bandwidth at home or have to share bandwidth. So we have, together with our colleagues, the Provost's office, and also the student affairs, or student rather, life office, we've worked to identify some people who are in need. We've done data lines and data modems to people. And even then, unfortunately, the performance of the different providers is not uniform across the country. And so we've worked with the recipients of those lines to determine the better solution and provide them. So we've had to switch, for example, between providers at some points. If Orange is not working well in your area, but Salat is, we've actually worked with them to switch around. Now, there are some best practices that people can do, right? So if you're a single user, and if you have a single user type connection, you need to make sure that there's not something running in the background that's sucking up some of that bandwidth. No, you don't want to be running something on your laptop that's Netflix or something like that in there. I mean, that's obvious, but it's just an example. The other aspect of it, if you're on a shared, and this is something that gets sometimes overlooked, but if you're at home and you're in a shared connection environment, and your sibling or someone else at home is using Netflix or streaming media or something like that, that also will impact the performance for you. So you want to be, cognizant of who else around you is using that bandwidth. And finally, sometimes if you're not tied to a certain time, and you're doing some asynchronous work, you're trying to download or upload, try and choose times when you know others aren't on the internet and not downloading streaming media. So early mornings are typically good for me. I typically try and do that. And that's essentially just use common sense around these things. But that's basically some of the things that you can do to improve the situation for yourself.
Thank you very much. Of course, internet connectivity is not only a problem that AUC students are facing, but throughout the country. And I wanted to ask our counselor, Dr. Ashraf Hatem, about the overall situation in Egypt in terms of response toward the coronavirus, where we are at. A lot of people have been talking about going to stage 3 prevention. So Dr. Ashraf Hatem, if you could please address the community and tell them what Egypt is doing and where we are as a country.
Actually, as we all know, that the COVID-19 pandemic now affects more than 1 million, maybe 400,000 patients all over the world, with hundreds of thousands of mortality. Egypt is considered by the WHO as one of the low countries in instance of the COVID-19. We have up till yesterday in the evening, the confirmed cases are about 1,600. And the mortality rate or the case fatality rate is about 100 plus, it's 103. But the good thing that we have up to now, and thanks God, there are many explanations, but that we have from this 1,600, we have about half of them have converted from positive to negative, and they are discharged from the quarantine hospitals. During the last week, the quarantine hospitals have increased all over Egypt from 7 to 18. And but again, the occupancy rate in these quarantine hospitals is less than 50%. 90% of the individuals or the patients in the quarantine hospitals have mild symptoms. And from next week, they will be isolated or quarantined in the dorms in the public universities. And that's why the number of those in the intensive care, which is less than 10%, and those on mechanical ventilation, which are less than half of these, will be still in the quarantine hospitals. We are still in stage 2, as we are not in stage 3. And as we all know that from today, the government have extended the curfew for another 2 weeks until the 23rd of April. And it has relaxed 1 hour so that the overcrowdedness in the public transportation for those who are coming back home, it will be 8 o'clock and not 7 o'clock. So up to now, the things are hopefully still, we are in the low incidence countries, and the mortality is still low and severe cases still low.
Okay, it's good to hear that Egypt is doing better than so many other countries around the world. Thank God for that. I have a quick follow-up question that was submitted by faculty and staff members. They're wondering what happens if people or if members of the AUC community or a faculty member or a staff member is infected with the coronavirus. What should they do? Can AUC do anything for them? They specifically asked if there are quarantine wards in some of the private hospitals that fall within the AUC insurance network.
Yes, up till the last week, as in my answer last week, that we have the only quarantine hospitals were those of the Ministry of Health. But since this week, we have the second phase, the backup was the university hospitals. And university hospitals has opened its quarantine hospitals, not only quarantine hospitals, but also their hospitals for suspected cases. We have very good relations and contracts with Ain Shams University, and the Ain Shams specialized hospital, which is one of the very important hospitals in Egypt. We have the lab there for diagnosis. We have suspected cases. We can admit the suspected cases. And again, there is the quarantine hospital of Ain Shams University. We have today the approval of them and the contract with them to have our case, inshallah. We will not have any cases, confirmed cases, but if we have, they will be quarantined in Al Ubur Specialized Hospital of Ain Shams University. And it is something which is a semi-private governmental hospital, and it is run by the professors of Ain Shams University. And it is a very high standard hospital. Next week, also, we will sign with the French hospital, which is the new Kasalaini hospital. Also, we'll have also the quarantine there for our faculty, staff, and students.
Thank you, sir. Before I move back to addressing some of the student questions, I want to continue addressing the questions that are coming from faculty and staff. This question is addressed to Vice President Management and Operations, Shahid Shakib. One staff member has written in with a question asking if they are dependent on facilities and services that are found on campus only, and they're being forced to work from home like everybody else. What can they do, since they can't fulfill the requirements of their job? What can they do to help the AUC community in any way?
Okay, so as you rightly said, that we are now on a minimum campus presence mode. Only the staff that really has work to do, essential work on campus, like security and like a very limited maintenance staff, etc., is allowed to go to campus. And these are also working on shift basis and a very reduced workforce. For the rest of the people whose job is, I mean, a lot of the, let's say, from the staff and faculty, this is a great time to revisit important but not urgent work that we don't have time to do during our normal, day-to-day business life or academic life. So this is a very good chance to focus on these items and do a lot of processes and procedures and housekeeping and all of that. That's a really good time to do that now. I also want to say, even though it's not encouraged that people go to campus, but if you absolutely have to go to campus, like a faculty member, if you absolutely have to go and access your office or your lab or whatever, you are permitted to do so. Of course, it's not encouraged because of the threat to the person himself. But campus is not fully shut down in terms of, yes, people can access their offices if they really have to do something work related.
Thank you. Those are very good suggestions, and I think they apply to even more than just staff, faculty, revisiting processes, course outlines, and syllabi. Keeping with some of the questions that have come in from some of the staff, I want to address this question to Vice President for University Affairs, Dr. Rania Borai. There's been a fear that by working from home and being unable to fulfill the requirements of their job description, that they will be penalized when it comes to their performance appraisals. How will we evaluate them given the circumstances that the university is going through?
Right, thank you, Firas. Well, actually, the evaluation process comprises your whole year, which we started back in 2019 in July. So I wouldn't say, that you haven't accomplished your work. You actually have. And for this very short period that we're in at the moment, I would hope that you're all sort of talking with your managers, and I'm sure you have actually agreed with certain deliverables. And so no, there should be no tasks that you will be penalized against. Just make sure you discuss with your managers, and any specific goal that cannot be accomplished for any reason this year, you would agree to either move it on to next year or maybe postpone it to an alternative time when we're back. That's my main reply to that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to start addressing some of the very deeply concerned students who've been asking questions. One of the biggest questions, one of the biggest concerns on students' minds, specifically those who are graduating at the end of this semester, is what's happening with commencement. Is it canceled? Has it been postponed? Some students are wondering whether they're going to receive their diplomas via courier, or are they going to wait until things normalize, if I could use that word. And is there a decision coming out soon? So I'm directing this question to Vice President for Student Life, Dr. Dina Borai.
Thank you, Firas, and it is an excellent question because, as you know, and we all know, commencement for any university is such an important event where all of us get together as a community. We celebrate students' achievements after a 4 or 5 year journey. And so because of this, the fact that commencement is so important, we haven't rushed to make any or to announce any final decision. Now, of course, we have scenarios for us. We have scenarios ranging from hoping for the very best and, of course, expecting the very worst. And of course, this is a very special graduating class. Besides the centennial, as the president mentioned, this is a centennial class. I think we can also call them the Corona graduating class. I don't know. There are different labels now for the Corona generation. But at the end of the day, what we have decided is to wait until the last week of April for us to announce and make a decision. So we are hedging, and because of the importance of commencement, we just don't want to rush into that decision. And so by the last week of April, we will announce the plans, the options, and why we will be doing what we will do. And we'll hope for the best, as always, being positive, being resilient in this very uncertain times. So that's why we haven't announced anything. By the way, I have had several conversations with students, the student union, and they know the situation. And I've also, you know, in the frequently asked questions, I have sent out responses to in writing to students who reach out to us by email. And please let them, all students who are listening to this, let them send in, and we will respond, of course.
Thank you, Dr. Borai. As you said, let's remain hopeful. I think it's prudent that we wait until April, since our commencement won't happen until June. And who knows, fingers crossed, inshallah, we'll be able to proceed as normal as every year. That takes me to another student concern, which is, it doesn't involve the entire student body, but a large number of them who have been dorm residents for the past few years.
Yeah.
Their question is, why has AUC further reduced to move students out of their on-campus residence this week? What has changed and where they expect it to go? Has AUC taken any measures to support Egyptian students returning home? This is something that's on the minds of students and their parents as well. So if you could address that, Dr. Borai.
Oh, with pleasure. As the president said, for us, we've been very lucky so far. We haven't had any Corona case. And at the same time, as VP Shireen said, we are, you know, on course to reduce the staff. We have to reduce, all of us, we have to reduce the presence of the all the essential stuff to a bare minimum. And that also includes the dorm staff, the residential life staff. They are also the ones serving the students. And so we have to try and look for ways to do that, which is to consider closing the dorms. Now, what we've done so that we are fair to all our students, that there are students for us who do not have homes in Egypt, such as the international students, and such as Egyptian students whose parents are abroad and they don't have a home here in Egypt to go to. So what we've done is we've identified 2 locations that are nearby campus. They're buildings 1 and 2 near the campus. And these are the ones where we are reassigning the students that are now on campus. We are moving them to the off-campus residences. At the same time, Firas, I encourage, and I am using this platform to ask the Egyptian students who all have homes in Egypt to please go home. It is for their safety, and it is also for the safety of our staff, to be fair to them, because our aim and what we're trying to do is to close the on-campus dorms as much as we can. We still have students on campus, Egyptian students, and we're working on that. So this is the current situation. I do hope that they are encouraged to listen to our call and to go home safely. But at the same time, I want to be very clear, it is not about all the rumors that have been said about forcing and doing things that are disrupting students. We wouldn't do that to our students. So once again, please, students, please go home. Egyptian students who have homes in Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Borai. I guess campus free of students and free of everyone, an empty campus is a campus where coronavirus is unlikely to come. And I see the rationale behind that. I want to move and ask President Ricciardoni a question that has to do with some of the student concerns as well as faculty. We've extended the remote work policy and online instruction to the end of this semester. Has there been any discussion about what's going to happen to the summer sessions?
On the summer sessions, lots of discussion, of course. The provost has urged and recommended, and I fully back him and the faculty on this. We're determined to continue with the summer courses, just as we are determined to continue with the spring session. We have more flexibility when it comes to summer courses. It is looking now as if those courses will have to be online. That's a reality. It is looking that way. I won't say that it necessarily will turn out that way, but we have to plan and do everything in the expectation that this epidemic, let's hope it subsides, but it may be a requirement to keep these practices in place to really tamp it down so it doesn't spike back up again. So we're ready for summer term to go online if we must. And we're particularly, there should be no question about the fall, and that too, we're even more hopeful that it will be as close to the new normal, whatever that is, in the post-corona world, or probably still corona world at that point. So we're very confident that summer term will go ahead, and even more confident that fall term will go.
Sorry, thank you so much for that, President Richardoni. It was a temporary glitch. I'd like to move on to Dr. Ihab, because we've received a number of questions in the past half hour from faculty and students about the pass-fail option that was introduced yesterday. So if I may, I would like to read one of these questions that just came in. I believe this is from a faculty member. It says, why would the university allow students to decide on pass-fail after the final grades come out? It's a waste of time for both the students and the faculty. Students should complete the assignments and faculty will work on the assessments. Dr. Ihab?
That particular point we also addressed in the discussion. I'm sure that also the Senate has discussed that, because the common discussion between the Provost Council and the Senate on that point came up. And we were, all of us were inclined to give the utmost flexibility to our students to make sure that their grades, their GPA is not affected by this unusual circumstances. With that spirit in mind, we went with the recommendation to go over that option for the students after the grades come out, and we'll give the students the chance to go and talk to their advisors on what to do, then decide afterwards. I don't think this is a waste of anyone's time. I think this is the flexibility that we showed to our students to make sure that their future is not really affected by the uncontrolled circumstances that we live in.
Thank you, sir. Follow-up question also to deal with pass or fail. A faculty member here has asked, can I give students CR or F, or does it have to be their decision?
No, it's, the faculty will put the grade letter as normal as any other semester. However, after the grades come out, the students will send an email, or actually will fill a form, an automated form that's being developed now, to the registrar to choose the conversion to the CR. The F will not change. So if the faculty gives an F for a student in his or her class, that F will not change.
Okay. I've also gotten a question here a few minutes ago from an undeclared student who feels that the current grading system is unfair because they have to get a letter grade for their GPAs to be able to declare in whichever department throughout the university. So they're asking, can you please allow undeclared students to change their grades to CR and still have departments accept them into their majors, because they are feeling much more stressed than other students right now?
As we all know, declaration on a specific major is limited to a specific number of seats per major. And we have to respect that, because that's limited, that's actually anchored to the resources each major has. And we need to strike a balance between our majors in the university too. And this is something that we look at it carefully. So I'm encouraging that student to get in, to consult the department that he, or the major that he wants to declare in from now, and look at the requirements and see if those courses, there are required courses per major that every student has to take. If the student is taking a required course now to declare a specific major, then I would recommend that he focus on that course, get in discussion with the faculty member who's giving that course, and get in discussion with his advisor too, to see what he can do. He can still exercise the option to use the late drop option, or to use for if the requirement is not that high on that course from the major option. Otherwise, I think late drop is the option in that case.
Thank you, Provost Ihab. There's a few questions now from some parents. One parent has suggested that all students who are obviously going through a difficult time and having to adapt quickly, and some of them have done remarkable jobs, the parent feels that students are being demoralized because of this prolonged social distancing, and there's, nobody on the planet knows when this is going to end. So they were suggesting something called a Corona bonus. So, maybe Dr. Borai will get a kick out of that Corona generation, Corona bonus. They would like to see students get additional points on their performance to help them with the struggle that they've been going through. Is that an option, Dr. Ihab?
That's an option. However, let me say that if we do that, all what we're doing is we're inflating everything. And if we do that, what's going to happen is also the threshold for declaration, the threshold of everything will rise with that inflation as well. So actually, it's not really a practical option. And as a parent, let me say something. This is an opportunity to teach our students, our kids, to be flexible, agile, strong, and creative. So as a parent, I'm encouraging all our parents to encourage their kids, their own kids, to actually be strong, to be agile, flexible, and creative. This is the time to actually to practice that.
Yeah.
Dr. Dina, did you want to add something?
Myself, or?
Yes, Dr. Dina Borai.
Yes, I want to second that, because with all the challenges students are facing, of course, with the online learning, it is, on the other hand, a wonderful learning opportunity for creativity. And also I think what we've done regarding grades, we've been very grade obsessed as in general, either as a parent or as a whole society, and that we should balance between what is good for our children in terms of the learning and focusing on the learning and the experience. And then at the end of the day, they have the options, as the provost has outlined very nicely, that is, nobody will be harmed, really. So it is not about the idea of bonuses and upping the grades for everybody. So I'm hoping that will be the mindset of us parents when we deal with our students. Thank you.
Thank you. I personally think that our students will come out stronger and better and faster after this semester.
Yes.
They just need to give themselves a little bit of time. I'd like to go back to Dr. Ihab again, and this is another question from a parent, and I'm so glad that the parents are tuning in and contributing some really important questions. This one has to do with SATs and GPAs. Dr. Ihab, as you know, the Ministry of Education has announced that grade 12 students who pass the SAT exam can choose between joining a university according to the criteria that was applied last year. And that last year's criteria was that the GPA represents 40% of the grade and the SAT represents 60% of the grade, or to let the GPA this year represent 100% of their total grade and to take entry exams when they come into the university. Will AUC be offering the same opportunity for incoming students?
First of all, let me say that we have extended our deadline for applications to accommodate the situation that we are in. This is number one. We also have a task force to look our admission criteria and how can we adjust those to adapt the new requirements that came from the Ministry of Education as well. And the recommendation that came from the task force is one is to observe the recommendation from the Ministry of Education and to maintain our index, which actually takes into consideration the SAT exam as well as the GPA. The special cases that will not be able to take the SAT exam because we're extended the deadline now for application, we will look at them. However, I think we have received a large number of applications this year. Our admission is about to close. We're looking at it. If there is a special case who did not, let me repeat that. If there is a special case who did not receive the SAT exam or did not take the SAT exam, we will look at it, but our index takes into consideration the SAT and the GPA.
Thank you, Dr. Ihab. I now have a question from faculty regarding the AFRs. Some faculty say they've missed the deadline, the February 15 deadline to submit their AFRs, and they're wondering if you will be able to extend the deadline to the end of April.
I would encourage that faculty to submit his AFR we will not be able to extend the deadline. That was February 15 before the corona issues hits us. I see that the dean's deadline to submit the report to the provost is actually April 15. So if the dean requests that extension because of the overwhelming work that they have been hit by after the corona situation hit us, we may extend that to deans, but not to faculty.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask a forward-looking question. I know we've been talking a lot with all of you about coronavirus and so on. The question that I have is for President Ricciardoni, and it has to deal with the future of the campus, because this is the first year of the new century for the university. And a lot of faculty have been engaged in focus groups looking at modifying learning spaces, perhaps the construction of new buildings. And we've met with an outside company called BBB, which has been looking at how to improve facilities on campus. So President Ricciardoni, if you can address the vision that AUC has working with BBB, and where would that take us?
Thanks, Dr. Faras, and that too is a great question. From where I sit with the provost, we are managing day-to-day crises and problems, but it's our responsibility, and we invite others to join us in it, to keep our eyes on the horizon too. We are going to get through this. As I said at the beginning, this is a hard period, but it's not going to last forever. Egypt is strong, AUC is strong, been here 100 years, God willing, we'll be here another 100 years, and we have to plan for that. What we know is that change is inevitable. Progress is not. If we want to make progress be the silver lining, the bright side of change, then we have to have a vision and plan for that and work to make it happen, bring the resources together behind a vision. On the campus planning, we went through a selection process to get the best we could possibly find, and they insisted on doing what we insisted on, which is working with our full community, students, but especially the faculty and staff who best know our jobs, our mission, our environment, and to have the best instinct for where we think we need to be, want to be some years from now. We'd like to have a really long range vision, but the farther out you go, of course, the more theoretical it is. But at least looking ahead 5 or 10 years ought to be something that our faculty is best placed to do. Students, are here for a few years. The faculty are here longer, and have longer term commitments on the whole to the place. So That conversation has been going on. Maybe Shireen would like to speak to it, Vice President Shireen, because she's been sort of the interface between the BBB, which is Buyer Blinder Bell, the New York architectural firm, and we have Dr. Basil Kamel, who's heading the sort of the faculty community task force, along with so many others. Maybe VP Shireen, would you like to speak more to that?
Sure. So this week actually was the week that was planned for BBB to be on campus, doing a lot of data gathering, focus groups, and being in touch with, collecting the data that will be the basis for doing the analysis for the master plan to come. Unfortunately, this could not, of course, take place because of the whole circumstances. However, we did. So this week was still a good week that we've done a lot of work. So this particular week we had 7 focus groups with the academic schools. So we had a focus group with each of the schools. Next week we've got focus groups planned with the students. On Monday there will be a big launch of the campus-wide institutional survey. So there's still a lot of work going on. We hope by all means that the June visit can take place, because that was their next scheduled time to come. We hope that the circumstances will allow for a visit, but we are pushing through. We're working all very hard to be able to work online and as virtual as we can to get this work going along. We also have the Learning Spaces project that is also progressing, and there also was meant to be a visit a few weeks ago that couldn't take place, unfortunately, but a lot of very good work is being done. And we're going to reap all what we've sown, hopefully soon, and we hope that in the coming few months the situation would become better and all the live meetings can still take place. Thank you.
That's very good, Dr. Sheen. It's always good to be able to look forward, even though we are all going through very challenging times, from the president living on campus and having to have students produce miracles, and they are producing miracles, and they're actually working very well, and the faculty who are working with them. So I think as a community, we're really moving forward, and it's always good to have something to work towards. So thank you, President Chidoni, and thank you, Dr. Sheen, for talking about that. I have one more question.
Can I just interrupt 1 second? So I just encourage everybody that when you do get the survey on Monday, starting Monday, please do respond and give us your best thoughts. And the more responses we have, the more, all that feedback will be more in more in touch with reality and what we really want to do on campus. So please do respond to the survey when you do get it. Thank you.
There you go. The community has homework to do on Monday.
Yeah.
My last question, which is possibly the most important question, and I want to thank Vice President for Marketing, Communication, and Public Affairs, Dr. Dina Abu Fatouh, for being so patient. The question is about communication. What is AUC doing to make sure that every member of the AUC community is aware of all the updates and all the changes, and some of these are very critical, that are happening on a regular basis? Is there a single channel to send this information to and for the community to access, or should they keep looking out for their emails and their inboxes? So Vice President Dina.
Thank you very much for us, and thank you so much for moderating the session marvelously today. We appreciate that. It's an important question you raise, and we sort of live in an age where there's so many channels of communication. So I think what we are hoping to do is actually meet people in as many channels as we can. I'll start first with kind of your answer. If there was one place I would direct people, it would be the website. And actually the Corona AUC Egypt / coronavirus websites is currently the second most visited page on our website, second to the homepage. So we know we get a roughly a little more than 2,000 views per day. So we know people are checking that out. And if I was going to recommend one source, we try to keep that refreshed several times a day, and anything that goes out in any other channels, it ends up there. So I would say that's probably the primary. If you were going to check one thing, that's what I would recommend. But in addition to that, even these conversations that we're having every week are a mode of communicating. And they're not only, we have a number of people who are watching us live, but I also say there are people who watch these at the sort of at their own convenience later. So these are also tracking anywhere between a couple of thousand to a few hundred views online, not necessarily live. And then in addition to that, there's a number we've, I think coronavirus, this experience has made us all think about new ways of doing things and finding kind of hopefully new and improved ways, and communications is no different. So we've had a number of videos that have gone out as a sort of a format that we've played with, and those have been very effective. And social media, we actually have the AUC Together campaign, and I thank people who have made contributions, and in particular, that campaign is actually the brainchild of two faculty members, Professor Adel El-Adawi and Nouri Saqr were the two who initially started that, and then it kind of became a larger social media campaign where members of the community are able to kind of share their experience of working and learning remotely. So all of these things are very important. We also actually, for the first time, held a media roundtable this week with Professor Hani Henry on mental health. And this was the first time that we've had journalists, rather than come to campus, join the equivalent of a kind of a press conference or a media roundtable all virtually. And it was another kind of experience that we're doing. So I think the answer is that we're learning and we're growing and we're trying to do as much as we can. And we're really grateful to the feedback that we get that allows us to do it. You and many of the other faculty members, especially in the GRMC, is sort of our resident experts on this, have been really instrumental in some of the advice that you've given. But I would welcome anyone else that's watching, please send us an email, tell us how we're doing. That's as it has happened, even this virtual conversation has changed as we went from physical presence to all online, but we're looking to adapt and change. So if anyone has suggestions or ideas, let us know how we're doing, and please tell us how we can do it better. So auc100@aucegypt.edu is an email in particular if you'd like to send suggestions on how better to communicate. And I thank everyone who's been really done a tremendous job in listening and hearing and giving us back information and letting us know what kinds of things they'd like to see and hear. So thank you. And I should also note that for next Thursday, it's a holiday. Kul sana wa tayyibin to everyone who's celebrating. So we will be having our virtual conversation on Wednesday instead of Thursday of next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We're almost at the end of our hour. I would like to thank President Frank Michardoni and Councillor Ashraf Hatim, Provost Ihab Abdulrahman, VP Abdul Latif, VP Dina Borai, VP Shireen Shakir, VP Rania Borai, and VP Dina Abu Fatouh for taking the time to address the concerns and the questions of the community. And I would wish that all of you stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. Oh, and I see President Michardoni has an additional comment to make, sir.
Yeah, if I could, some people have been asking, maybe because I'm one of the oldest people around campus, what I expect in the longer run and where we're going. If I could just kind of do something that sort of sums up a lot of the things we're talking about. I don't expect that the post-corona world or the post-corona AUC is going to be something totally different or very different. What I expect is the changes that were already underway in the world at large, in Egypt, in the United States, and at AUC, that Corona will have accelerated them. So we were under economic pressures. This is really stepping up the economic pressures. We were working in new and different ways. We on the planet, we at AUC, this is really going to step up good things, good changes that were underway, as well as hard ones, stressful ones. We have to economize. No kidding. We've always had to do that. We've been under economic stresses, healthy, but stresses. We have to contain the costs so our students can afford to come here. Those are going to continue. So already, as I said at the outset, don't waste a good crisis. We will use this not just to survive. We're going to do better than survive. We're going to be stronger, and we will accelerate the good changes and the things that are negatively impacting people, we're going to mitigate one way or another. So I just want to put that in. I want to reassure people, this has all been about anxious questions and the stresses we're going under. There's no denying that. But we're lucky to be part of AUC. Of all the people in Egypt, we're very, very lucky. We have responsibilities to uphold not only to ourselves, but to the larger public and public health. And we really have to meet those. And I so appreciate the spirit that I've found among student, faculty, and staff in doing it. Thank you very much. And thanks to AUCTV, by the way, because this is AUCTV, which operates independently. Dr. Faras, you and your colleagues in Mass Comms and the JRMC. Thanks to you, because you're an important part of communicating during this time of pandemic. This is another way I think we'll be stronger. We're going to strengthen our sort of administration communications and the great work that's done in Mass Comms, including the Caravan, which I know is your particular field, including AUC Radio. We're all going to be, I think, more deeply appreciated and frankly, better exploited as we go forward. That's already one of the benefits that's popping out of this experience. So thanks very much. Thanks AUC TV, Caravan, AUC Radio, Dina Abou Fatouh, and all of her team that is making this possible.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the community. I hope everyone practices social distancing. Stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy. Goodbye.